Well, the battle for justice continues for many families who are caught up in that scandal. Earlier, I spoke to Kamaljit Uppal, whose baby died during labour at the trust. She was joined by lawyer Kashmir Uppal, who's been working with some of those who've been affected. I started by asking Kamaljit to explain what happened to her. Just a warning, you may find some of the details distressing.
I was 36 weeks pregnant with my son Manpreet, and I was taken into hospital. My baby was breached from 5 months onwards. I went for antenatals. They told me I was going to have a C-section. When I was actually taken in and I went into labour, they actually didn't give me a C-section. They said it's not in my files. And I asked them whether they could give me a C-section. They said there's no problem, you can deliver. The baby was put link. I started delivering with feet, legs came out, his hips came out to the hips, and he got trapped. And that was it. The crash team was called. I was begging for a C-section before even I started delivering, and they said, no, we're going to carry on delivering as normal.
Gosh.
And it became a poor outcome. He had an APGAR of 0 when he was born, because I had to have the crash team out to me. The baby was completely trapped. They had to give me a C-section at the end of it, and he was born with a very poor condition. He was basically not alive. And when they picked him up, and he was floppy, and they got him back after 21 minutes. And he lived for 2 hours, and sadly, he passed away. He slipped away.
I'm so sorry, Kamaljit.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds traumatic, and presumably you feel that if you had that C-section earlier, that might not have been what happened to your son.
Yes, because it would have been a better outcome. When I had the post-mortem done as well, they told me that if he was delivered early with a C-section, he would have lived a normal life. There wouldn't be any complications.
I mean, people do put a lot of trust in doctors and nurses, and so to be let down in this way is clearly devastating. This lady lost her son. I mean, do you think that healthcare staff need to be held to account?
Well, we know the police have started an investigation to see whether anybody at the trust, either as the management board or individuals, have been guilty of criminal activity. I mean, I think the problem at this trust was also the fact that they had so many different management levels and different chief executives over a short period of time. And they were just a focus on trying to sort of blame the families for this, rather than looking at themselves and saying, actually, there's an issue here that needs to be investigated. We know that this started with 23 cases, but now 1,862 cases. That is a huge number of cases, and it's appalling that it's taken that number of cases for this investigation to be carried out. But what is really important now is that the recommendations from this inquiry are actually implemented, because only by doing that are we going to ensure better safety for mothers and better outcomes for mothers and babies in what should be a really happy time. And it's terrible that people like Kamaljit and other mothers have had to go through what they've gone through, and it's a testament to their strength that we've got to the stage today.
And Kamaljit, presumably this still has an impact on you and your family.
Yes, I'm still suffering. I was suffering in silence. My voice has been heard by John Arkenden. She's took it very seriously, and I've had relief today with all the outcome that's going to change everything in the system.
And just how are you doing now then?
I'm not that good. Even though it's been so long, but the pain is still there. It's unbearable sometimes, but I have other children which I have to look after as well. But the thing is, it won't bring him back. The damage they've done, and the families, my family had to put up with, it's unbearable.
It's clearly traumatic, and Kashmir, we should say that NHS England has actually welcomed this report today. They say they recognise the need for further improvements. They say they have now appointed a new chief executive, a new chair, a new chief nurse at the trust, and they say many other new measures, teams and support have been put into place too. But clearly the question here is, can they now rebuild trust to mothers like Kamaljit?
I think there has to be real changes, real effective changes. And it's not just at this one trust. There were 27 recommendations regarding this trust, but 7 recommendations which were identified as immediate and essential against all in relation to all hospital trusts. And as I say, I think the principles about risk assessment and informed choice, they have to listen and they have to take time and ward rounds led by consultants, multidisciplinary team meetings. There has to be a focus on compassion and caring, which was sadly lacking at this trust. And I think the fact that Donna Ackenden has done this review, and her full report hasn't yet been finalised, that will come out in 2021. But if the trust want to be seen to be acting, then they need to implement these immediately. And by doing so, they will restore faith in the trust and protect mothers and babies.
Kamaljit, how about you? Do you welcome these changes?
I do welcome the change to protect mothers and babies. I don't want them going through what I went through. It's very hard to get over. And, you know, the change is more welcoming because there'll be more procedures in place. They'll go with the protocol. And anything else, they will look at it immediately than years later. Otherwise, yeah, I am happy with it.
Well, clearly a very traumatic case for you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Kamaljit and Kashmir.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.